Hey there, this is K4A, Knowledge for All educational videos and tutorials channel. In this video today we are continuing learning GameMaker Studio 2. We are continuing with learning GameMaker Studio 2 drag and drop blocks, how and when to use them, and we are trying to learn today how and when to use drag and drop block, which is called set sprite. So far we have made some kind of simple game scene where you can move your player the white square to the left, right, up and bottom, and there are some kind of triangle red enemies which fall down from the scene, and when they touch this white square, the white square dies and the red triangle disappears. So in today's video we are going to try to make it more interesting, more fun, more complex, and we are going to try to change this red triangle, the enemy, into something different in terms of the look, how it looks on the screen, because when this triangle hits this player, the white square, both of them disappear. We want to make that looking better, and so for example we can change this triangle in something looking like a crashed or explosion or something like that. We have explained earlier that first, when you want to make something show up on the screen in GameMaker, you have to make a sprite of it. Sprite is a simple image as in Scratch, as in other game engines, and then you have to add that sprite into the object. So first you make the sprite, then you make the object and add that sprite into the object. We did that with this sprite spike and made first the sprite spike and then the obj spike, then move the obj into our scene, make it interactive with our code. So today we want to change this red triangle into something else, but only and only when it touches the player. So when those two collide, we want to change this sprite, this image, because we want to change it on the red triangle. We will code in the red triangle, so in its programming window. But first let's see how this sprite is looking and what to change. I will make it very simple. Again, it will take some time to make it, but it will be as fast as possible, and after that we will code. But I will try to make this image of this red triangle looks like it is exploding, it is falling apart into the pieces. So let's try to do it. First of all, I'm not going to make, I can make this again another sprite of this another image where this will be like falling into pieces, but because this is simple image, the red triangle, but sometimes it will be very complex, and that then you won't have time, or it's not very smart to go from the scratch again and make the same image. So all you have to do is right click on the sprite which you already have and make duplicate, and it will be instantly created. The same image will be instantly created, although called differently. This one is called from SPR spike, this one is called SPR spike 6, so I will change it to SPR spike destroyed, and I will use this one to make a new sprite. So I want to change this sprite. The simplest way is to go into image editor into GameMaker. You can do that outside of GameMaker, for example in Photoshop, Krita, whatever you use, whatever editing software you use, and then go to import. But I will do it in GameMaker. I click on the edit image and I will make it as simple as possible. As I just said, I will just try to manipulate this image with rectangle tools to make it like, to select pieces of it and move it around so it will look like it's falling apart. and maybe I will delete some of them, maybe. So it's very simple, just trying to make it look crashed. Okay, so it doesn't have to be precise, quite opposite. And I think I can even delete some parts of it. Okay, so all you have to do is just select and press the delete button. Okay, so this sprite looks cool to me. It's sprite spike destroyed. I will move it under the sprite spike. I will close this image editor. Okay, so I have now two sprites, the sprite which is basic, the sprite spike, and the one which says sprite spike destroyed. Let's see how we can add that in our obj spike. The action, the block of code I want to use today is called set sprite, so I will type into this search box set, and there it is somewhere here, set sprite. Yes, okay. So what you have to be careful of is when and where are you putting this block into our code, into our game. So do I want to put this set sprite after my object is destroyed? So for example, my triangle enemy is falling like this, it hits the white square, it gets destroyed like this, and then I want to change the sprite. No, I don't want to do that. That makes no sense. If it's destroyed, then it's invisible, it exists no more. So I want to do what? I want to make him fall, touch the white square, then change its sprite, and then gets destroyed. So first change the sprite like to some destruction sprite, demolition sprite, and then disappear. So if I put it this way, destroy instance, and then set sprite, it won't be visible on the screen, it will be strange. It will first get destroyed, then show up, or even not show up on the screen. It makes no sense. So what I want to do is I want to set this sprite above. So first I want to see it changing its sprite into this and then disappearing from screen. It's just common sense, but you have to be careful of how you put your code one up or below something else. That's same in the Scratch, that's same when you type the code, not using a visual coding language. The computer, the programming language, the game engine is reading from top to below to bottom, and you have to make your code behave in that way. Just make it sane. Just think about it and like reading a book from left to the right, bottom to the top to the bottom. Same is with programming language. There has to be some kind of order. Okay, so I see here I have a set sprite block, which is cool. So all I need to do now is choose a sprite. I will choose the sprite spike destroyed, this one. So that means I will change it to sprite spike destroyed, and I will explain this frame and relative later. Let me just try the game. Okay. Yeah, this is too fast. I don't see if it's working at all. Let me try again. Yeah, I have no idea is this working at all or not. So that's because we have those two, as I said before, those two code blocks. They are acting very fast, and sometimes our eyes cannot see the change. So we see that something is disappearing from the screen, but we don't see this sprite gets changed. So what do I want to do now? Maybe I should delete this block and this one, just to see it better, but there is even better option, I think, in GameMaker, because if I delete these blocks now, I will have to add them later again. I don't want to do that. This is only prototype version of my game, so I don't want to lose time if possible, so I will just disable them. That means those blocks won't be active anymore on the screen in the game, so you can disable them to make them inactive, and then later when you need them again, just click on them and click enable, and that's it, they will be active again. So now my red triangle should just change its sprite and not get destroyed. Yeah, it looks cool to me. I don't know. Yeah, nice. Maybe I will just slow down a little bit this, set gravity to even lower just to see it better. Maybe it will be slower. The red triangle will be slower now, but I will see the change better. Yeah, just because of the prototyping. Yeah, I like this. So we have learned something new. You can change the sprite of one object just with this set sprite simple block and pointing with this button here to choose the sprite you want. So we could choose the coin, you can choose whatever you want, you can turn that sprite spike into whatever you want, even in a sprite player, even in a sprite restart button, so whatever you have imported in GameMaker. But there is also another thing which we can do and show here. Let me see just how long is this. 12 minutes. Okay, it will be around, I guess, 15 or 20. Just to show something else which is maybe considered a kind of advanced learning in sprites in terms of what we have learned so far, but in terms of GameMaker Studio it's not so advanced, so don't worry. Again, we haven't used it before, so it may be a little bit strange or difficult for you to understand it, but you will use that a lot for your games. In GameMaker, it doesn't matter if you use coding blocks or code in GML by typing the code. These things which I will show now will be used whenever you make some games, some more complex games. And that is again something about sprites. So as we have seen here, I have made a new sprite. Sometimes you will want to do that, sometimes it won't be so smart. The smarter thing would be to choose some sprite from your sprite. So now you say, okay, I don't understand that, I have a sprite and that's it. How can I choose a sprite from my sprite? That means in my sprite, in my single sprite, I can have another sprites. Yes, that's true, and that's used for animations. We haven't used that in GameMaker, but it's same principle as in Scratch. If you have watched my videos or you use Scratch, in one sprite you can have other sprites implemented like images in a row. That's used for animation when you have some for example character which is moving to the left and the right and moving its legs and arms, so you will have the simple first image of the character standing still without moving, and in that image you will have, for example, other images of character moving left, right and so on. So you pick those images by code. Let's show that on Sprite Spike. So I'm not using Sprite Spike Destroyed, but the first one, Sprite Spike, the basic one, and I will go to edit image, and here you see the only one image, right? The first one, the simple red triangle. So how can I add more images? How can I add more sprites into this sprite, the simple The simplest way is just clicking this plus button and it will make as many sprites for you and place for those sprites as you want, and you can delete them with this X button in the right top corner as in Scratch. Those sprites are called frames, so it's considered all to be one sprite with different frames, and when you create them in the first place they are empty, and when you click on them you can draw whatever you want. So when I now make this second frame with this, for example, I don't know what it is, white scratch, that image will be considered a part of this one of Sprite Spike. It will be called Sprite Spike, but different frame. The first one, the first frame is frame 0. You have to be aware of that. So we are counting from 0 in programming languages, not from 1, and this one is number 1. So the first frame is called 0 frame, the second one is first frame, and so on. So 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on. And you get out of it by pressing the X button, and now we have 2 frames in our Sprite Spike. When do we use that and how do we use that? Again, this is just the introduction. We will use that later and explain it in more details, but for example, you can see even in this basic Sprite window which I have opened, and you can open it by clicking 2 times on the sprite. You see below you have some kind of animation timeline. It's called animation timeline, and again very similar to other programming languages, and you see what frames of sprites you have there, and you can test that animation here by clicking the play. This will be very fast and very strange and very crazy because it's not you can see how it goes looping up. Yeah, this is the default state. It doesn't look so bad. It looks like some kind of lightning thunder. I don't know, I thought it would be worse. So yeah, it could be dangerous if you have epilepsy or some kind of seizures. Anyway, it's you're not supposed to make those kind of strange animations. You can do that, you can even do that if you want, but this is useful for when you want to make smooth animations like this triangle rotating or transforming into something else and so on. So let's try using those 2 sprites or see just what happens if I pick set sprite here instead of set sprite to sprite destroyed. I will set it to sprite spike. So I will use the same sprite. Yeah, I don't even have to use that. I think it will be by default, because when I go to my room now, every triangle will change its shape and its sprite from this red triangle to this and so on. It will go in loop because that's the default state. That's how GameMaker works. Again, no time for that to explain it now in terms of it takes time to explain it more in details, so we will do that in some of next videos, but you have to stop it. You have to stop this animation and tell the GameMaker, okay, do not animate this unless I tell you so. But by default, if you don't do that, if you don't say don't animate, GameMaker will animate by default. And because we have 2 sprite frames here, red triangle and white thunder, the GameMaker will think we want to animate by default, and he will say, okay, I will animate all of those triangles because all of them have 2 sprite frames in them. So let's see how that looks. I think it's by default, so you can, yeah, It looks crazy and not so bad, but okay, we can even combine now. I hope I'm not confusing you too much here. So we can combine that animation with this. Yeah. Okay, so what I will delete, I will go to edit image and delete this one, not to confuse you, but what I wanted to say here, and I will explain it in some later videos, that this sprite here which we have made, the new one, this one will be called Sprite Spike Frame 1, and this one will be Sprite Spike Frame 0. Then in this block which we have learned today, Sprite set sprite, we can use the same sprite as the one which we have used for our object. So we can see here I'm using Sprite Spike for my obj spike, and I can use that same sprite but different frame here in my set sprite. So you can have as many frames as you want in your sprite, like 10, 50, 20, 100, I don't know. And instead of making new sprites like we have done here, you can make just new frames like we have made here, just adding frames and drawing into them. But again, that will be possible only when you first stop the animation by default. By default the animation is working, so we have to stop that default state, and we will learn that in some of next videos, but I just wanted to show you what this frame means. That means that I can start my set sprite block from some kind of frame. As we said, frame starts with 0, but you can use one or whatever you want, like 156 if you have 156 or more of them. So that's very good for you to know and to use it, but we have to learn other stuff too. So I will just change this to Sprite Spike Destroy. So we will use one sprite we are using one sprite to show up on our object by default, and the second sprite Spike Destroyed, which is this one for the state when it hits the player. And we will just delete these frames we don't use and don't need, because we don't want GameMaker to get confused. So we will stop here with the clean look. So we will have the red triangles as enemies as our default state, no animation, no frames so far, and we will have sprite changing its look to sprite set sprite destroyed, like this. So that's how I like it at this point. Later we'll probably change that and add more features and interactions, but so far it's working. And again, try to experiment on your own, try to change those sprites for other objects, not only for this enemy, but you can change the player, you can change the coin, you can change any object or sprite on the scene. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching. 25 minutes, again, too long, but I will make the description I will make the checkpoints so you can pick what you want to watch, because we have explained lots of stuff here: sprites, frames, animation, default states, and again the basic states of set sprite GameMaker block. That's it for this video. I hope to see you in the next one. Keep on making games, and keep on learning. Bye for now.